Hey, Maria.
Hey Julie, how's it going?
Good, good. I'm excited to be here. Hey, Heather. Hey, Brittany. Thanks for being here. Welcome, welcome. You are in the Highly Sensitive People Club, and tonight, Maria and I are going to have a deep dive discussion on social media and how social media impacts highly sensitive people. And I think as we get going in this conversation, there's going to be so many different directions that this will go. And I hope some people come in with some additional perspectives that maybe aren't represented up here on the stage. But I'm definitely a highly sensitive person that is not in love with social media. And when I talk about social media, I'm primarily focused on Instagram and Facebook. I haven't personally used Facebook in the last year because I was too busy on Instagram trying to create visibility for highly sensitive people, and just spreading the word and my mission behind celebrating this trait. And um, as far as those two mediums, I feel are not really a space that I enjoy creating and being in, and noticing just my reactions because, of course, they're deep, as HSPs are deep feelers and deep thinkers. I'm, constantly reevaluating what is maybe a good environment for me. How do I feel in that environment? What do I bring to that environment? Am I bringing in energy that feels good, or does it feel toxic and competitive and comparison? And so I think that's kind of where I knew this wasn't really for me anymore. And I thought, where could I create that would better serve me? And we'll talk about that tonight as well, because I think that you can definitely um, create a community, connect with different people, just not through social media. And there's different ways that we can create community without it. So, anyway, I could go on and on. I'm really excited to talk about this topic. I know Maria will have a lot of input and I'll let her introduce herself. But just really quickly, for those of you who are just hopping in the room, my name is Julie Staub. I'm an HSP. I'm an HSP lifestyle coach. I'm a certified holistic wellness coach. And I created this club because I wanted highly sensitive people to find us. And I knew that community was really important for our mental health or emotional health. And also, the other benefit of being around like minds and other HSPs is being able to have those relationships blossom outside of social media or Clubhouse or wherever you're meeting online. And that is something that I have really been grateful to have done with Maria. And we get to spark ideas. We're both creative, we're both have teaching background, and through our connection we've just really been able to support one another, grow, learn, heal. So it's just a really exciting journey that you can have through this group, through this club. And I just think it's wonderful to connect with other HSPs because there's just a certain language that we understand no matter what. And it's just helpful to have those kind of like minds in your court. So I'll go ahead and mute myself and let Maria introduce herself. And then anything you want to share, Maria, I'll let you share.
Thanks, Julie. Hi, everyone. My name's Maria. I'm also a highly sensitive person. I learned about this trait about maybe 5 years ago. Can't remember exactly, but in the past, I don't know, 3 months, I've kind of gone off completely social media, and there's a lot of personal reasons that we'll talk about. But Julie and I were just chatting one day, and we decided maybe this is not the best place for highly sensitive people. I wonder how other people feel about this because, of course, we're considering how others also feel about this topic. And so we just kind of wanted to have a chat, invite others to see how they feel about it, and just kind of talk about the pros and cons of it and how we can maybe stay on it if we wanted to, or other ways that we can kind of manage that connection where, human connection right now seems so out of touch, so like not human some days. And so we just kind of wanted to share our conversation with whoever wants to join in and listen in. So thanks for being here.
Thank you, Maria. And I didn't realize it had been 3 months already. Has it really been 3 months?
It has, and I can tell the difference in my body, and I'm sure we'll get into this, but it was November, I guess maybe 2 months. I don't know. It's been enough of a time where I went back on it for a little bit and I could tell the difference right away. So I'm excited to get a little bit deep with this.
I love it. I love it. And for me personally, I, I really gave it a good year of my time thinking, this is the way I need to do it. This is how I create visibility. And then I just didn't like how you're kind of always expected to, do the new thing or, create content nonstop. And, you know, as an HSP, we already have feelings of not being able to keep up. And then you add that pressure to produce content, be relevant, be seen, be visible. And so that really is the hamster wheel that I'm just not interested in participating in. And that's kind of been the story of my life. I look at people in 9 to 5 jobs, and I did that for maybe the first 25 years of my life. But other than that, I've been self employed. And that's been, you know, how I have escaped a lot of those systems that feel very toxic and unsustainable and really feeding a capitalist society, that hustle, that grind. You've got to, basically produce or you have no value. And so when I stand against those values, that is, this thing I get to birth now. What is the creative journey for me? How do I create multiple income streams? How do I, let people know what I do, but it's not through social media? And so I'd love to hear other people's thoughts around social media, whether you use it for personal or business, or how it's part of your life. Is it something that you see as a tool, or is it something that you go to for, a time waste or avoid the things that you should be doing? Because I know that with social media, Facebook even, I never really spent a lot of time scrolling. um, I was always looking at the top of my feed when I would go into the app, but I didn't spend a lot of time just scrolling. I would typically post what I post and, go back and check to see if comments were made or likes were done. And then I really didn't engage with it. Um, and so I just feel like everyone has a different habit or behavior with social media, and maybe it's not a problem for you. Maybe it doesn't keep you from doing the things that you should be doing, or maybe it's not a numbing device for feelings that you don't want to feel. And so I'd love to hear all different kinds of perspectives. We're not really trying to take sides, but I definitely have strong feelings and opinions. So I will always be speaking up about that. But I would love to hear from anyone in the audience, how you relate to social media, how it works for you. Um, and is it a place that you feel safe? Is it a place that you feel you can make a contribution and not have to sift through all of that extra noise? It's like, how do you protect yourself from that? So I'm open to hearing your thoughts. And thank you, Allison. So good to see you. I'll go ahead and mute myself so you can share.
Hey Julie, hey Maria, peace and blessings to everyone in the room. I love this topic so
I
much.
know.
Me and Julie have talked about this. Um, but in all seriousness, like I used to have like a love. Like when I first got on Facebook, it was in 2011, if you can believe it. And, back then, Facebook was a whole different animal, in my opinion. it was fun. You were connecting with people that maybe you haven't seen in a while. You had those little interesting games that were on there. And it was just a great way to like meet up with people, pass the time, and so on and so forth. But eventually it kind of morphed into this huge, like, capitalistic, like, pit of something. I don't know what to call it. And it seems like it's just getting more and more complex for somebody like myself to really navigate and really find my place there. Um, Especially as a business owner, it's like my business page gets like nothing, and I can post and post and post and post and post and post, and it does not matter. Even when I do ads on my Facebook page, it's like I don't really think they're sending them to the people that I'm asking it to go to. Like, honestly, I don't. And I used to like Instagram because of like the pictures, but now again it just morphed into something else. Now it's, you've got reels and stories, and this and that and this thing that you gotta learn how to do and that thing, and you gotta keep up with all this stuff. And it's like, you know, I get I mean, I'm an HSP. I overwhelm like really, really easily, and it's already overwhelming enough being a, creating content, for the people that you're hoping will see your stuff. But then when you get on there to see that no one really sees it, I even had a friend of mine, she was like, I hardly ever see your stuff anymore. I used to see your stuff all the time, and I just don't see it anymore unless I just go into your stories or whatever. But it's like, why do I have to like be on this hamster wheel of posting, 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 hoping that the right person will see my stuff? It's exhausting. So, when I got on Clubhouse was a totally different animal, and I actually love Clubhouse because I love the connection. I love hearing people's voices, being able to sit here in my cute pajamas that nobody will see, and, have my tea or my water or whatever and just chill out and have a conversation, do the stuff that I love, which is teaching, having conversations and things like that. So, I don't really consider Clubhouse to be as much of social media as the metaverse. And please, Lord, let's not talk about Twitter. I couldn't get on Twitter. I was like, you know what? That's enough. Nah, I can't do it. It's too much stuff to keep up with on Twitter. God bless if you use it, but it's just not my jam. But I'm to a point where I just want to just leave it, leave that metaverse and just create in a space where I don't feel like I have to be a machine and create stuff. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm gonna land my plane for now. My name is Allison. Thank you for letting me speak.
I love it, Alice, and I loved everything you shared. I'm just over here grinning from ear to ear, smiling, and just, nodding my head, everything that you shared. It's so true. And I think, I never used Instagram consistently. I never got into social media until the pandemic. And then I felt that, oh, I've got to be relevant online. I've got to create online. There's no in person. What am I going to do? I mean, I can't people right now. So that was really why I put myself on that track. And what I noticed after a year of solid production, of constantly creating content and feeling every time like yucky energy about it because I wasn't posting fast enough. I wasn't posting the right photo. I wasn't branding enough. I wasn't, whatever. It was just nothing felt good about it. And that's when, at the end of the year, I was getting around a lot of people who were moving away from it. And that was just a lovely revolution in itself, just to hear other HSPs say, yeah, like this is not for me. And I feel strongly in 2022 to start in person again and to really do the work that I'm called to do, which is not to live behind a screen. That is not my nature. My nature is to work with people, support people, lead people, and have compassion and empathy in person. That is what I'm good at. And that's why Clubhouse has been such a savior for me, because I don't know what I would have done had I not found Clubhouse, because I was trying since 2018 to just be relevant online, and I just didn't have the right path, or it didn't feel sustainable. It didn't, I tried a Facebook group and it was like crickets. I would do all this work for like 16 people, or, it just felt like this trap. So everything you said was wonderful. And I always just love listening to what you have to share, Allison. So thank you.
Yeah, that really resonated with me too, Allison. The hamster wheel. I just got a visual of me like trying to post things. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. And it felt very overwhelming as it was. And then they kept adding more features to things. But for me personally, it's also been a lot, and I've been talking to Julie about this. So I got on Facebook right after I graduated college because I refused to get an account when I was in college. That's back in the day when you needed to have like a university email or whatever. I don't even remember. And my husband's like, no, just get it, it'll be fun. And it was fun. And all those little games, I remember those games. It was great. I have a lot of family that I don't see on a regular basis in Mexico. So it's been such a great way for me to connect with family and family in Germany. Like I have family all over the place. So it was great and it felt really good and they could see my journey. And then before I knew it, like my grandma who doesn't know how to read or write is now on Facebook. And I'm like, what? What is happening? And so it just became this like huge, like 15 years later, I'm like, how is my grandma on Facebook and why is she liking my photos at 2 in the morning? Like my grandma should be getting some sleep right now. What is happening? So I think in November, I just had this huge aha of like, I don't think I'm helping by contributing to this. And I thought I was for a long time. I kept trying. And then on Instagram, I did like these creative challenges and it was really fun. And I had started my own business. And so I did all the things that you're supposed to do. And it just didn't feel right to me. And I thought I was the only one that felt like that. Like I would post something and don't even get me started on Instagram because I would always run out of space for all the characters that you're supposed to use. And I'd be sitting there and I'm pouring my heart out to my phone in the 2 minutes in between I have between nursing sessions with a newborn. I'm like, God, this is it. Someone's going to see this. It's going to mean something to them. And it did, obviously. Like, it's not like it was for naught, but then it'd be like, no more writing room. You ran out. You're talking too much again. Like, there was this huge like reminder of this is just I need more space. I need to go deeper. I need to write longer things to connect with people in a deeper way. So for me that was just like a huge aha. But I do have to admit that that first week, maybe first 3 weeks after I completely got off of everything, it was really weird. Like it's been really hard to stay quote unquote connected with people that I know in real life because everyone just assumes that I see everything that they're doing, but I no longer know what's happening. So I feel like I'm in a different world. Like everyone's off doing their thing and I'm just over here like not holding my phone in my hand as much anymore. So it feels a little weird, like a detox, I guess. So that's my ramble about social media for now. But yeah, I so agree with the hamster wheel and all of that.
The kids on YouTube, they talk about serotonin detoxes now. And that's like a term I keep seeing in a lot of different videos where, we have conditioned our brain to constantly need a boost of serotonin in a very rapid, quick pace that we just are, we're turning our attention span into zilch. And we're just getting drained by that like constant suck of, going in that chemical high. And I just think it's so interesting because I grew up, before the internet. Like, I didn't get my first email address until after college. And I just remember, when Facebook became a thing. And I was like, this is weird. Why are people from high school contacting me? This is weird. But yeah, like Allison said, it's morphed and changed. And, obviously we've seen the destruction and also the irresponsibility of the leaders that are behind these things. They're not taking responsibility. And I just, as a deep feeler, as a deep thinker, as someone who cares about people, I don't stand for that. So it goes against my values as well. So I'm interested in hearing from some other people that have jumped up here. I have rambled enough, but I'll pass the mic off to Tanya. Good to see you, Tanya.
Hi, Julie and Maria and Allison. Nice to see you and everybody else that's in the room. Yeah, so I was on social media, kind of, similar to what others had expressed, how it was nice to be able to connect to other like friends or family members that lived in different states, be able to stay connected with them. And then I got to the point to where I just frankly got sick of it. And it wasn't serving my mental health very well. And so I left it for a couple years. And I don't remember when I ended up getting back on social media on Facebook, is more kind of what I'm referencing. And I have discovered, I guess, maybe like through the pandemic and then also learning about like my human design, and my profile type is like a line 4, which is here to connect with people. Like that is literally what I'm here to do and who I'm here to be. And so I actually find myself today in a very difficult situation because I too am way too wordy for Instagram. That just pisses me off and frustrates me to all ends, because it's like I have so much heart to say, so much like to share, but yet I'm very limited there. I don't like sitting on video, I don't enjoy that one bit. Um, and Facebook just feels so dead to me, so to speak. Like when I'm on there, I just don't really interact much. And so I'm grateful to have found Clubhouse, but with me getting, I'm like in the process of kind of like starting my own, online business, if you will. So it's like I was just talking to my partner today about this of like, I don't even know how I'm supposed to go about that. Like, how the hell am I supposed to be able to start a business without being on freaking Instagram, without being on Facebook? Mind you, I don't utilize Facebook whatsoever. Um, so I'm struggling with that piece too, because as an HSP, like, I resonate with like the creating the content, like just feels overwhelming to me, and like, having to post and having to do this and, all this shit. And I'm just like, no, I don't want any part of it. But yet I know that I need genuine human connection. And along my healing journey, those individuals who at one time were my friends have fallen away. So legitimately, I have no in real life friends, right, that I can actually spend time with. And so that's the other piece. It's like, how is it that I balance that? So, I find myself in this really, really in between space that I'm just like, universe, what the hell am I supposed to do here? Where am I supposed to go? What the fuck? Like that's where I find myself right now. And it's truly challenging. And I'm frustrated as all get out about it. Like literally was crying to my partner earlier about it today, because I'm like, I don't know what this looks like for me. And I'm frustrated as an HSP on how to move forward.
I want to say something, Tanya, and I've had many talks with Tanya outside of Clubhouse. So I feel like I know you a little bit, but the response that I have for what do you do? How do you get yourself out there? I just see podcasts for you, and not just making your own podcast, but being a guest on other people's podcasts. I think that is a really great way to just get yourself out there and tell your story, and, drop a link for a newsletter, and then, share your heart through your words. Or maybe you do a recording and then you share that recording. It's really easy to just record your voice and share that as a file. So I think that there are ways that are HSP friendly, because I am the same way as you. I don't want to be on camera. That's overstimulating. I am not good with written word. I'm the same way. I just take too many words, and then to try and bullet point it or bring it down, it's like painful. And so to be able to just give yourself that expressive audio where you can even edit it down if you feel like it goes, in a different direction. But I just see you using your voice and building those connections and reaching out to podcasters that you really enjoy their content and seeing if you can talk about human design or whatever it is, whatever healing modality that would be relevant to your shared market. That's just my two thoughts.
Well, and I appreciate that. I mean, I have felt like I'm more meant to kind of use my voice because I do have a defined throat in human design. So I know I'm meant to share. I know that I'm meant to share my heart, because my heart or my throat is connected to my G center in my human design chart, which is comes from the heart. And so I understand that piece of it. For me, it's the piece of, okay, I don't really have much time to listen to podcasts, and so it's like, that's the struggle that I'm having, is like, how am I supposed to find those? And so that's where my frustration comes from. And I know too that, like, I have, it's been expressed that, yes, I am here. I'm meant to use my voice and I'm meant to share that way. And while a podcast, it definitely resonates with me, I'm struggling myself of just being able to be like, there's so many different things that I can talk about, and feeling like, I'm struggling to pinpoint, like, what the hell is it that I would even call my podcast, and like all these things, right? Like that for me, the HSP aspect, I'm feeling overwhelmed in all these different ways. So, but I do appreciate that reflection, Julie, because you do know me. We have connected quite a bit outside of Clubhouse. And so, I do appreciate that reflection and the encouragement in that realm.
Oh, I just want to say, I just want to honor your frustration because it is a frustrating process. It's like giving birth. I literally was trying to give birth for my mission and my vision for years, and it is a frustrating place. So I feel like you're on the cusp of something and you're about to give birth to something. So just hang in there. Hang in there. I know you're going to see this through, and I just have good feelings about everything around, your mission. So I just wanted to share that. I'll let Allison speak.
Hey Tanya. So I like Julie, I am honoring you and your frustration because, it's not easy doing this work. It's not easy, and being an HSP just adds another layer to it for us. Now, I am different. I'm actually a person who likes to be in front of the camera. I don't mind it. It doesn't really bother me. However, if you're seeking to, like what Julie was saying, I love that suggestion of being on other people's podcasts. It may not be that you have to actually listen to other people's podcasts. I know on here on Clubhouse, there are several rooms where people have opportunities for you to come in, introduce yourself. You can even introduce yourself as someone who is, maybe thinking of starting a podcast. They have rooms for that. The great thing about Clubhouse is just as much as we have the beautiful opportunities to come in and speak as HSPs, there's also room for people who are podcasting. It could be a room full of women podcasters or women over 40 podcasters, or, because I've been in those rooms and I've actually got a spot on someone's podcast being in one of those rooms. So, it's just a matter of being very intentional. And right now, I wouldn't worry so much about finding the definite what you would talk about and all that. Think about like this, because when I started my podcast, think about what it is that you want to say. What are some of the things, like if you're posting things already and you're saying, okay, I'm running out of characters to be able to really express myself. Well, that tells me you've got content on your file, your profile already. So go back to some of the things that you posted about and you felt really strongly about and repurpose that and turn that into a podcast. Maybe it may not be like a really long subject. You can even start it off by saying, I posted this a couple of months ago on Instagram and I really want to go deeper and talk about this and yada, 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 and go in from there. I've done that. I'll even I'm a person, I still love to read blogs. So I read blogs and then, I might do a video or an audio about a blog post that I read, whether I agree with it, disagree with it, want to go deeper with it, or something like that. It's just really turning on those creative HSP juices that I know that you have, Tanya, and I can feel that in you. It's just a matter of you giving yourself permission to really think about what it is that you really want to say. Because you've got something to say. I can even feel that, like all up in your throat chakra. You have something to say. It's just a matter of you um, owning that part of you and saying, you know what, this is what I want to talk about. So that's what I'm feeling, and I'm done speaking.
Thank you both ladies for just honoring my frustration and just hearing me and holding me in that space. I truly appreciate that aspect of it. Um, for me, like I want to reply to Allison, like I actually haven't posted on Instagram in well over 6 or 7 months because I've gotten to the point with Instagram that the frustration of not having enough space. And so I'm just like, screw it. Like this is more frustrating to me than it is anything. And so therefore I'm literally not posting. And so like that's what I was expressing to my partner earlier. It's like I feel like there's so much within me to share because I have been on such a wild journey, if you will, of healing and coming back to myself and relationship stuff. Like there's so much that I could share. And so for me, it's just like I am struggling to trust that, what I have to say, um that's what I meant to say, or, I'm struggling to feel like, oh, I need to just stick to one topic. And that's never going to be possible for me to stick to one topic. There is no way in hell because just the way I'm designed and created, I'm not meant to. I'm just not. And so it's just me struggling to, I guess, trust that aspect of myself. But I do really appreciate everybody's like shares and the reflections because it's helping to give me some things to really sit with and consider and um honor about myself. So thank you both, and well, thank everybody very much for just giving me the space to talk.
I just wanted to add to really quick, Tanya, that I think the recent one of the reasons why it feels so frustrating, and I honor your frustration in that too, is that I think what happens with social media is we get so easily confused about who we are. And so, as highly sensitive people, it is so hard to stay true to who we are when we are so hyper aware of who everybody else is. And we can also tell that not everyone else is being their true, authentic selves. And so, it's just a lot of like frustration all around. And so to show up in a platform that you don't feel 100% you can be yourself is already hard enough, but then to see that other people are not showing up as who you know they are, especially if you know them in real life, is even more frustrating. So yeah, I totally get you on that. And I was going to mention, if you ever want to practice being on a podcast, I have a podcast and I literally ramble on about the randomest things. It goes all over the place, from creativity to parenting to HSP stuff to like my dog dying to, I mean, like everything. So if you ever just, I don't have a very large following on my podcast. It's literally like my mother-in-law and my husband. But I have so much fun with it, and it is such a therapeutic way for me to process what's going on in the world. And now I have this documentation of my journey as a highly sensitive creative mom who is just trying to live the day-to-day life. So if you ever just want practice being on a podcast, we can do an interview style, whatever you want. Like that's open to you always. And then you can like listen to it and see how you feel about it. Because sometimes it's weird, like you're not sure if that's the right thing. So test it out if you want. I'm here for you. Totally valid for you to feel all that and to just know that you have all the right and you need all the space that you want to take. Like just do it. It doesn't matter what other people are doing. You're here to be you, and we're all here for it.
Thank you so very much, Maria, for that encouragement and, the offer to, to be on your podcast. That truly, is heartwarming. And I receive that, and I would love to. I know that, like, I struggle to even re-listen to my voice notes that, like, say I send to my partner, when we message back and forth. Like, I'm very critical of all those pieces of myself, of course, but I think that it would be a very, it would be a very great exercise in a lot of different areas for me. So I would love to connect whenever you're available. And again, just thank you everybody for giving me this space to share and express myself. And this is Tanya, and I am complete.
This is Julie and Maeve. You've been so patient. Thank you for hanging out here on stage. I just want to say really one other quick thing that came to me is I spent all of 2021 responding to what everyone wanted in the HSP club, what topics, what to discuss. And I spent really the first half of the year really catering to that. And then through a lot of different ups and downs and on that journey, I ended the year with an interview style. And then at the beginning of this year, I really jumped into content that I am passionate about, that I am excited to talk about, that I can bring energy and life to. And that is my grounding anchor in my content. And so I've done that dance of trying to take in all that feedback on what I should and shouldn't be doing. And in the long term of it, it's really just focus on what is important to you. Write a list, just write a list, and then just, think about those different ideas that you never had space to write about, and see, what that makes, what that list is made of. And maybe you start to see a pattern in the topics that you want to talk about. So that's just exercise I think that would be helpful, because it's going to make you feel good about what you want to share. And I think ultimately, when we get in our head about thinking about all the things that we should do, or the way we should go about it, or everyone else is doing it this way, so I need to do it that way, in the end of the day, you're going to come to the realization, after you've gone down all those twisty paths that didn't really work out for you, that you're just going to focus on what makes you happy, and what you're curious about, and what you're excited about, and what makes you feel good. And that feel good energy is what is going to create that mission and that vision to reach others and get further out into the world. So that's just another 2 cents. I'll get off my soapbox and let Maeve talk. Thank you for waiting so patiently.
Yeah, hi, this is Maeve. Tanya, so relatable. So relatable to everything that has been said in this room, on this stage. And Maria, I especially appreciate you pointing out the part of, as HSPs, being aware that we're not sharing necessarily our full selves online, and then thinking about others and how they may not be sharing their full selves. One of my top strengths is developer, and so I absolutely love to see the potential in someone else and then help them cultivate that and see it to fruition. And that's really hard to do sometimes, when I'm like, I kind of see your potential here, but you're not showing it, you're not like connected to it at all. What's going on, right? But obviously everyone has a life outside of social media too. So for me, social media has been overall helpful. I'm an extrovert, and I've really been able to use the like marketing funnel advertising, I don't know, things on especially Facebook and Instagram to kind of target specific audience members to get them to like my page or to interact with my page so that they see it. And I do really miss the days, like way back in the day, when it was just like your family and friends and you're just like normal, natural connections, and you saw almost everything that everyone posted because it was just like a normal feed of things. And now everyone's talking about the algorithm, right? The algorithm, like, oh, that works, and then like how to work the algorithm and how to put the money in promotions. And it's just, it's a huge game. It's a huge game. So I don't know. Anyway, all of that to say, I do use social media and I generally enjoy it most days. Um, but during the pandemic, Clubhouse was super, super helpful for me as well because I did not want to do video. I was not wanting to meet people, you know, and the audio is great because you can share your ideas and kind of just go off of something, right? And I think similar to what Julie was telling Tanya, that audio I think really does help for people who just need to talk things out a lot of the time. And I I really talk things out a lot. And I like conversation and dialogue. And I think that's what's been really hard for me in creating content. And I keep coming back to this over and over and over that I I feel like I can't create content because I want to be in a dialogue or a conversation with someone or something, and then like get deeper in that conversation, right? And so I've had to try to kind of learn how to set up that in some of my like consulting areas, I guess, where I'm talking about like a topic for a week, and then I just keep getting deeper and deeper into that topic as we move on. And I've it's really helped me to be able to write things out and break it down very succinctly so that I know where and when I'm talking about each content piece, because otherwise I'll just talk about all of it in like the first one and just be like, okay, well, here's this and that. Like, especially with like ADHD, I'm just all over the place. And so it's just, yeah, I think for me, being successful like in business or on the professional side with social media, I just need to be intentional and kind of write that stuff out. But I absolutely support people not being on social media if that is the best thing for your health. Absolutely, I support you 1,000%.
Love it. Yeah, it's a crazy world as a person who has been a part of Facebook from the beginning. You think about kids these days hopping on Facebook, they don't know the evolution that it's gone through. And it did have a happy place for me as far as connecting with family and friends and people that, you know, I'd lost touch with. And, you know, it kind of became the, you know, white pages of the phone book. And now I just feel like it's a very sinister place. And it's just, um, it doesn't also, you know, looking at the actual visual of the setup of Facebook is overwhelming for my eyeballs. Like, I just taking in all of that information, it just needs to be a little bit more eloquent. It, you know, and that's kind of obviously the move towards Instagram and the photos, but then you're limited in your ability to express. So yeah, I see Clubhouse as being a container for me to build an audience, to connect and come together as a community. And it doesn't feel like a place that is depleting my tank. It's usually filling it. And so, if I'm continuing to have that feeling about Clubhouse, then it's a good place for me. If I feel that it's depleting me, then maybe that's time for me to back up and do less rooms. And I've had to play that game with Clubhouse as well. But that's the other part about being an HSP, is knowing your limits and allowing your nervous system to rest and going into that inner space to really ground yourself and know what you want, so you can show up on social media as yourself instead of someone constantly reacting to different things that you're noticing. So it's just really fascinating stuff. And with that, I will let Brian speak. Thank you again for being so patient.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for inviting me and having me here. I just wanted to thank everyone for their expressions, for their input and their insight. Again, I always value everyone's diverse opinions, regardless of whether they resonate with me or not. It gives me food to chew on. And so thank you so much for everybody's unique lens. It's such a beautiful thing for me. I'm very much a late comer to social media. I've never been on Instagram, never been on Twitter. I'm legitimately the only thing I've ever been on is Facebook. And I think that was 7 years ago. And that lasted about 3 years. And then I needed to walk away from it. At the time, I didn't really recognize that part of the reason why I needed to walk away from it was because of my highly sensitive nature. Um, yeah, there's a lot of more background behind why I needed to walk away. But um, after last week's room, uh, Julie, I just completely deactivated my account because I just see it so much as this empty vacuum piece. At least for me, not to disparage anybody else who uses it. Uh, it's not social to me. Social to me is having interaction back and forth. It's let's create a dialogue. Um, let's dig in and talk about things. Let's get down to the heart of things. And as a highly sensitive person, social media becomes this vacuum that you get sucked into, if you will, where it's just this bottomless pit of scrolling or trying to find new ideas and trying to find something to respond to or interact with. And if you do happen to find something to interact with, and even if you create content that encourages other people to interact with, the interactions are lacking, at least for me. Um, and that's just because maybe I prefer deeper meaning. Maybe I prefer, more substance, if you will. I would rather have us have a dialogue about things that we completely disagree on, but yet we still have that dialogue. And social media to me is too much the highlight reel. It's too much. It just feels too disingenuous. And for somebody as I am, that's highly sensitive. I think that I'm highly sensitive to bullshit. I you know I value authenticity. I value integrity. I value honesty. And being in social media places, it's like um, my intuition can just see the highlight reels. It can see I would, nothing wrong with that. Everybody's entitled to their lens. Everybody's entitled to what they show and what they're comfortable showing other people. So I don't want to disparage anybody. Everybody has their limits and their boundaries, right? And they're allowed that for sure. For me, I guess it's just one of those pieces where I'm so used to or want to grow to continue to become more used to being my vulnerable self. Hey, this is me in all my weird, glory and all my sensitivity and all of my flaws, if you will, or all of my imperfections and all of my humanness and glory in that. But social media often feels like it's the antithesis of that. It's very much something other, at least for me. And when it comes to marketing, I've had great success when it comes to getting myself out there and attracting people to me when it comes to social media. Um, but I've also had great success in attracting the people that I don't really want as well. Um, and you take the good with the bad, of course, but um, there was a time before the internet where Sears got as big as they did without social media. Uh, Napa got as big as they did without social media. There's a lot of companies in this world that grew and got as big as they did by word of mouth and by just intention of, hey, this is what we have to offer. And I think that, don't misunderstand me, social media can be a tool, right? Um, but not everybody knows how to use a skill saw. Let's be honest, okay? Not everybody knows how to use, you know, the tools that are set in front of them healthily and well. And for some of us, myself included, um, that are highly sensitive, I may know how to use the tool, or I can blunder through using the tool. Um, but it doesn't necessarily bring about the creation that I hope to build with that tool, right? If for me, maybe it's, well, this tool, I thought that it would work. It's just not working for me. I'm going to go try a different tool. It's just that simple. Um, so I appreciate, again, everybody's willingness and openness in these rooms to have these discussions, because it just gives me food for thought, and it allows me to see others showing up in their honesty and in their character and in their integrity, and I value and appreciate that. This is Brian, and I am complete.
Brian, I appreciate you sharing, and I think it's super important to recognize the last part of what you said, that they're just tools, and you can pick and choose between those tools. You're not being forced to use all of these tools. Someone can have a very, very successful consulting business where they have like classes and make thousands of dollars a year just with an email list. They don't even need to be on social media. I know so many people who do community development work or politics, and it's just word of mouth, phone calls, text messages, talking to people. And I think that's the kind of work I like to do. And so, yeah, just trying out the different tools, at least having the courage to try new things and see what works for you. I did want to add also that I do like using Twitter. I know Allison mentioned no to Twitter earlier, but I absolutely love Twitter because I'm able to type out so all of my thoughts literally as like a stream of consciousness as it goes. And if it's out of room, I just add another tweet. And then people are able to do that interaction, that engagement, that conversation back and forth, that dialogue. Um, so I just wanted to add that out there too as well.
I would also like to add that one of the things that I am grateful for about Facebook is that is actually where I met my partner, was on Facebook. So if it wasn't for Facebook,
Wow.
me and Mr. Brian would not have ever met. So I am deeply grateful for Facebook for that. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
I just wanted to chime in and say, that's the good and the bad of social media. Is it's kind of like you dip in, you meet your people, you find your tribe, and then you duck out. Like, it's not a place that I want to live permanently at, or connect through, or comment on someone and wait for them to comment. Kind of like what Brian said, I crave those connections and community and conversation and dialogue. And I know that I'm here to learn about relationships. It's all over my chart. It's all over, just how I've led my life. And those relationships for me are more meaningful in person. And if it weren't for Clubhouse to meet over dialogue and conversation, I probably wouldn't be, out in the internet world as much, because really I only came back into Instagram because it was connected to Clubhouse. And that was the only way in the olden days of Clubhouse. You had to have an Instagram account to connect to all the wonderful people you were meeting in Clubhouse, because there was no messenger or anything like that. So it's interesting how, now that I feel at home on Clubhouse and there's ways to connect with people here outside of Clubhouse, I don't need the Instagram account anymore. But it is something that, it's nice to have it there, but I'm not spending time on it, and I'm not creating, and my source of creation isn't through social media. Just like Maeve said, it's a tool. There are so many other tools. And that's why I've spent a lot of time trying to build my email list. Is I feel more comfortable sharing more intimate things with my email list, and in more creative ways than I can on social media. And it is just this slow going process of putting different ideas out there and attracting those people that are interested in hearing more. So it is just, I think, for HSPs also a slow process. And so just to be okay with that and accept that and know that you will get to where you need to go, but it just takes us a little extra time, and to be, give yourself a lot of grace with that. And another thing that I was going to bring up that kind of just stoked my thoughts when you were sharing was, there is this interesting duality that I see myself observing when it comes to Facebook in particular. And it's knowing the behind the scenes life of my friends and then how they show up on social media. And like Brian said, it feels inauthentic. It's that highlight reel, and it's confusing for me because it's easier for me to just be transparent, to show up as myself, to be messy. Um, and then it's like crickets. I feel like it doesn't actually get seen. So that's another thing too, is just, I feel like the true authentic people just don't hit the highlight reels. And so I'm seeing a lot of things that my friends are doing, and it feels like this thief of joy, because I'm seeing an inside world and an outside world that don't match. And then I, question what are we doing with social media? How are we engaging with it in a way that we are presenting ourselves one way, but we're going through life another way? So that's always been confusing for me.
I couldn't agree with you more on that piece, Julie, because I too have experienced that, like working with colleagues that were, crying on my shoulder, and then, an hour later posting that everything was wonderful and great in their world. And, it was that piece of like, okay, that doesn't, those don't align, like they just don't align. And, that's a piece where it's taken a lot of courage for me to step into my vulnerability, to actually allow myself to be seen in my mess, to even share that with the world, right? And, my partner can totally vouch for this. I wouldn't let him hear me cry on the freaking telephone 2,000 miles apart. I would get off of the phone. That is how much I struggled to even show up in my vulnerability. And today I have really worked to create that strength to be able to show up in that and share, like, look, this is the shit and I'm going through it, and I will share that. And I cannot tell you how many times that has been received, people projecting onto me and people being triggered and like all of these things. And so it's caused me as an HSP to pull back and be like, well, screw that shit. Like, I don't want to handle and deal with that, because conflict is something I struggle with, you know. And so, yes, I get that those are pieces that I'm being given the opportunity to work through. But my point in that is just like, I too struggle with the, the incongruencies of people not being authentic in how they're showing up online, because I just don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me.
Try working in politics. Super fun. You do it intentionally.
And I would just like to encourage, and I tell Tanya this all the time, and I know that they're just words that we each as individuals have to come to a place within ourselves where we can believe this, where we can see it for ourselves. But I truly believe, and I hear Julie talk around it often, is HSPs are here to change the world. In my personal opinion, in my personal belief, in the ways in which I've seen Tanya show up, myself show up, other highly sensitive people show up, is in their authenticity, because it almost grates against their soul in my lens, as I've witnessed and experienced it, to be anything else but. And I feel like that's a superpower. I really legitimately do. I feel like, and don't misunderstand me, that's not easy. Nobody's raising their hand, jumping up and down, saying, "Woohoo, let's do this." Like, I get that. I respect that. Um, but I really, truly believe and truly feel um, that those people that are sensitive to just to misalignment, to inauthenticity, those who value deep integrity and deep character and authenticity as a way of life, because they can't imagine being anything else but. I really truly feel like that is what the new frontier, like that's the shift that is coming in society. I really truly feel that, because you see that in children. You see it all the time. And yes, society tries to squash it and all the things, but you see it exists, and it's there. And I want to encourage those who struggle with that authenticity piece and struggle to find their voice around being vulnerable and being open. Don't stop. Whatever, hell or high water, don't stop, because you are the superpower that everyone else needs.
Oh, Brian, I love that what you said, and I echo that as well. This is a superpower of being an HSP, that attention to things that most people don't pay attention to and don't see, or they miss it. That attention to a detail. That's something that is just awesome. I'm sitting and listening to everyone speak, I'm thinking about social media, going back to something that Julie was saying about, I think was it serotonin that you said it is?
Yes,
Okay.
serotonin detox.
Yeah. So I think for an HSP, well, I got a couple of things. So I think for an HSP, having to feel validated on a platform, or feel acknowledged, or whatever, it goes back to that inauthenticity. But at the same time, we're getting a high for getting these likes, someone commenting, these different things that we feel like we're looking forward to. So, I think social media for HSPs can be very tricky and a very slippery slope in that way, for us. So we have to be mindful and take that extra time to kind of walk out some things, if that makes sense. Another part that I wanted to bring up is the fact of, what really had just hit me was, how we, a lot of times as HSPs, we don't like a lot of loud noise. Like if someone is is speaking really loudly at us, or hear a loud noise in the house, or something like that, because my son always makes fun of me that I get spooked easily, but I can't help it. It just it's a reaction. I don't like a loud noise. I like quiet. I think that's my issue with a lot of social media now, is scrolling through my phone. Even though it's my eyeballs, it's noise, because there's so much static and white noise to navigate through and look at. And I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but that's what
I
it
love
feels like.
that.
It feels like noise. You can't hear it, but you see it. And that's what it is. It is the inauthenticity of other people, which we have no control over. If showing your highlight reel is what makes you happy, do you, boo? I'm not here to judge you on that. But on the other piece, for someone like myself who's highly sensitive and intuitive, it really becomes very noisy to me. And I feel extremely overwhelmed and exhausted when I am trying to create my content, post it, make sure on Instagram, like I said, again, going back to the damn overwhelm, using the correct hashtags, making sure that all the hashtags are correct so that somebody can find my damn post, or, you know, Facebook, will I compete with the algorithm? Are we gonna sit and fight like Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield? Am I gonna bite somebody's ear off? Just it's too much work, and it's noise. It's all noise to me right now, and that just really was hitting me as you all were speaking and talking. I was like, that's what it is. It's visual noise. So maybe that's the part of it that's really annoying us.
Oh, I so get that, Allison. And I think that was one of my biggest takeaways is that noise. And it's like it's stimulating your thoughts at all times. So even when you're not on it, you're constantly thinking about it and you're comparing. And because we take in so much information just as regular human people, and then regular human people, yeah, regular human beings, and then you add on top being a highly sensitive person, which you pick up on so much more as it is, then it's noise and it engages your thoughts all the time. And so for me, for example, as a parent of two young children, I would get on my phone and scroll, and I'm the scrolling master. I will be on my phone for hours scrolling while I'm nursing the baby. Like that is just what I did. But it would be a post, and they're motivational people that I follow. They're not like those Debbie Downers who just kind of like ramble on about life. They're like inspirational, like you can go and do this, girl, go do it, whatever it is. But I was so overstimulated by all the motivation that I felt so unmotivated. Like it was just so much. Like I don't want to go live my life like this. I don't have, and then I'd be one of those people like you can do anything, go fight for your dreams. Or I don't know whatever people were saying, and I realized that it was really just noise, and it was getting in the way of what really truly mattered to me, which was the people right in front of me, my children, the ones who were fighting for my attention with the phone. And it just became a matter of, like Brian was saying, like, are you in your integrity? Are you your complete whole self? And if you're not, like, that's okay. We all make decisions here and there that lead us off the path, and we get back on it and we try new things. And it's not a judgment on anybody who might enjoy this kind of stuff, but really it became a matter of I'm not the type of person that can set the kind of boundaries that I need in order to be a healthy, loving mother. And that just became a non negotiable at that point. And also that I was so constantly, I mean, I'm always overwhelmed with information and parenting in general. But then it became like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing the gentle parenting thing correctly. Now I just yelled at my kid. Oh my gosh. And I didn't try the 10,000 tips I read about earlier this morning. It's so overwhelming and information overload as a highly sensitive person that you kind of have to decide, can I set the boundaries for myself so that I can take care of myself? Or is it something that I need to take a step away from and trust that I will find something else to replace the marketing and all the things that I will need in order to have a thriving business in, 2022. So I don't know, everything you guys are saying is really resonating with me and making me feel a little bit less alone in the sense that the choices that we make, we need to do them together as highly sensitive people and support each other. And Brian, you said something else too about this being a superpower, and it really is. And the last question that kind of came up to me right before I was like, I quit, I'm over this, was how can I show up for others and how can I show up for myself when I'm not even being honest with myself? So I'm using this device to numb my feelings because I have so many and I have them so strongly all the time. How can I be an example for others if I am not even being 100% truthful with myself? And so I think that was the moment where I was like, you know what, that's it. If I'm going to be the HSP person that motivates and actually encourages people with a different way because I do things differently and that's just part of who I am, then I need to stay true to who I am. And this is one of those steps. So I so enjoyed this conversation. I am so happy that we decided to do this room, Julie. Um, there's just so many big takeaways. I'm so appreciative of you guys for showing up and just being here. So thank you.
Maria, I love that. I love that. Absolutely love what you shared. So much so what I heard you expressing, and obviously through my lens, is social media puts you in your head and takes you out of your body. You're not really connecting with
Yes.
your heart. You're not connecting with yourself. It's a detachment piece, which for a highly sensitive person, well, that's going to drive you insane eventually if it doesn't right away. Um, and finding, and again, not that social media is bad. I mean, if you use it as a tool, and you know your limits, you know your boundaries, you know what works for you and what doesn't work for you, excellent, excellent. Then stay in that lane. But oftentimes, you know, the algorithm and all the things will oh, squirrel, and drag you off track. And all of a sudden, you're caught up in your mind. Your mind is going 6 million miles per hour about 300 million different things instead of really dropping in your heart and being like, being present in this moment. Where am I at? What's going on? What content matters to me? Where are my children? What's going on with my children? Heard Maria say, you know, or whatever our environments are around. So I loved that reflection because that totally drove home an idea for me on why it doesn't really resonate for me, because it does just that. It takes me out of my body and puts me in my head. And I've got enough of that going on with work and, you know, life in general. And I want to be more intentional about dropping into my heart. And again, that is around, for me at least, that's around more connectivity. That's around more personal and intimate conversations, rather than, you know, scroll by. And again, I'm with you, Maria. You know, my feed was all these inspirational people, but it just becomes, that's still an overwhelmed piece. It's still a, oh well, I've got to do it the way that they said, and oh well, they're making six figures, and so it maybe their way of doing it is right, and all these, like, it's just this piece that just, you know, seemed to just overwhelm and take me off track from, this is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm about. And that may be what they're about. Excellent. Kudos for them. Great. Love it. And I can support them and cheer them on just from way over here.
I will say that when it comes to social media, I tend to be either like one of two ways, or maybe I started one way and kind of transitioned into the other, where the first way was very in my head, of very thinking, once I started public pages, I guess, you know, and like had my own social media, but then started like public other ones. I was very in my head with like, when do I post? What am I posting? And it didn't feel like I was connected to that, you know, authentic thing. And I think that was okay, as long as I, like I mentioned earlier, did my content at a different time, so that the content was actually coming from that place. But then I was just posting and doing all the logistical things later, like business kind of things later. Um, and then that just got to be a little overwhelming for me. Yeah. And so then what I did was I transitioned, when I was taking some master's courses, into just doing like a lifestyle brand, I guess, or personality brand, right? Where I was like, okay, get rid of all of this. And I just like made all of my URLs the same, all of my usernames the same, and I was like, this is just me living authentically in all of these different channels, and I don't really care anymore. And so that's kind of how I ended up. But I think there is definitely different approaches to it, and finding what makes you comfortable.
Something that came up listening to like Maria's share, you know, kind of everybody's shares, and knowing Julie's human design chart, knowing Brian's human design chart, and some things that I've seen like on Instagram is, and it's just something that like I'm kind of witnessing. So the individuals who tend to have like the two top centers in their chart, white, tend to take in a ton more of information from outside themselves. So like they amplify other people's, you know, inspirations and other people's, you know, content basically. And it feel this constant pressure. And something I've witnessed quite a few people on social media doing that have that is they completely have unfollowed every single person. Like they don't follow anybody because it was influencing them too much, or they were struggling too much with what all of us are sharing. So they unfollowed every single person. So the only thing they see on their page is what they actually share. They don't see anything else. And for somebody like myself, I have those centers colored in or defined, and it still even affects me. And I really like what Maria shared, because it really helped me to see where I've been doing the same things of, like, just scrolling for the sake of scrolling, or like, oh, well, I follow this, inspirational person, or I want to learn this, or I want to learn that, because I have a brain. I love to learn, absolutely have an active brain, and I really, really love to learn things. But there comes a point in time where, like, I get to learn how to stop looking for more things to learn and to be more in my body. So I appreciate that piece, Maria, because it really helped to drive home. That's what I've been doing. It's really helped me to see that that's where I have been doing myself a disservice. So I appreciate everybody's reflections and shares, like, in that regards, because it's really helped me to see some blind spots of mine.
It's so funny that you said that, Tanya, because that was actually something I was contemplating the other day, because I was cleaning out my Instagram, as I periodically do, of people that I follow. And I was like, what if I just cut this and just like unfollow all these people and, leave it to where maybe I have less than 20 people that I'm following. And these are people that whose content I don't mind looking at, because I know it's going to be in alignment with who I am and everything else. But at the same time, it's like, but then I'm like, but somebody's going to get pissed off because I'm not following them anymore. So now I'm overwhelmed again. And it's so much. And I'm like, oh my goodness. My brain just is like, "Rrr," sometimes. And I can remember some time ago, I was trying to plan something that I was going to do on social media. I got so frustrated that I literally logged off of everything and cried. And I mean, cried, because I felt so overwhelmed. And I was like, I got to do it this way. I have to do it that way, because other people are getting success by doing it this way. Maybe I need to start doing reels, or I need to get on TikTok, or what if I did this and I did that. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to plan it this way and that way. And I was so in my head. So listening to everyone talk about their experience of how they're feeling on social media, it's really making me breathe, because sometimes it feels hard to breathe as an entrepreneur who is highly sensitive, trying to navigate doing social media. And I mean, I've been on social media for a while, but again, it shifts, it changes, it evolves. It's a totally different like animal that it was like when I first joined it. And it gets so frustrating that I just like feel like throwing my phone across the room. But, you know, I'm really taking in what everyone is saying, and it's really just confirming for me of what I need to do. And Julie and I, we've talked about this in at great length. Thank you all.
Well, and I just want to chime in here because I love what everyone is sharing. It's just so nice to take a back seat and just hear all of these perspectives. And I just want to say a couple things. I remember hearing, I want to say it was in recent months, that the company Lush, Lush, they do bath bombs and soaps and all that, relax, calm vibe. They removed themselves as a company from social media because they understood the damage it was creating in young girls, and it goes against the integrity of what they stand for as a brand. And here I am as an HSP telling people, go to nature, get outside, ground yourself. It is incongruent with how I feel about my biology and how I need to take care of myself, and not using social media as a time waste, as something that I'm cranking out content for, that ultimately I'd rather be in person or out in nature, educating others, advocating for this trait. And that's where I want to show up powerfully. I don't really want to make six figures and have it be because I have mastered the skill of social media. I'd rather master something else and make a whole bunch of money, but it's not social media. And I think it's really easy as someone who can get easily influenced by all of these ideas, whether they're good or bad or positive or negative. And it's just that noise, that extra noise. And for HSPs in particular, we need more nature. Nature. That is where we need to be. And as someone who is really evolving my brand around the trait, I want to be that example. I want to say it's okay to get off social media if it's not your thing, if it doesn't feel healthy, if it feels like you're detaching from being present, from connecting with your family. And I was going to say, what would you be doing if you weren't doing the content, if you weren't creating the content, if you weren't spending all that thinking time and draining your batteries? Because, like Allison shared, I know what that feels like, to completely crumble and cry because you don't know how to move forward in the right way. And ultimately, to me, that's a sign I'm not grounding myself. I'm not doing the things that I know I need to do to take care of myself and what I tell everyone else to do to take care of themselves as an HSP. So I just wanted to put that question out here. I know we'll probably close here in shortly. I know Maria needs to get off soon. But I am just so grateful for all these different perspectives. I'm glad, Maeve, that you were here to represent that other perspective, because I know there's a lot of us that are leaning away from these different avenues, but I appreciate you sharing your perspective as well because it's helpful. I think we can all be in a room and talk about our different experiences and not point fingers or place blame or judgment on others if they have a different viewpoint or a different angle on social media. But it's helpful to feel like we can talk about that and create a community space that talks about these things. This is really me showing up in 2022 authentically, and in alignment with the things that I'm excited to talk about and that I'm curious to talk about. So thank you all for being here and just sharing your perspective. I'll go ahead and mute myself. I had to take a big glass of water. Did you want to share, Maria?
No, I was just going to say it's really rare that I have nothing to say, but I was like, wow, my mind is so quiet right now. That's interesting.
It's all that processing, we have to process this. I think it's really important. I think I was always feeling like a burden on my friends because I wanted to go deep. HSPs are intimate quickly. We know how to get to the depth in conversation. And these things that we circulate in our mind, we don't necessarily have someone to talk about, and not to create venting or trauma bonding. I think there is a level of maturity and self-awareness that you can bring to these conversations where it's not really about venting, but processing these ideas that we really have been circulating and thinking about and marinating in our brain, but we just haven't had the outlet to talk about them. And that's the beauty of Clubhouse, is that we can sit here, like Allison said, in our pajamas. I'm in my recliner with a big blanket because it's cold here. And it's just comforting to be able to come together in community and really connect with people on a level. And that to me is what, like Brian said, that's social media. Or it's something where you're engaging in person in real time. And it's exciting in that sense because it's not a responding to, it's a live present moment. And I think it's something that, a lot of us have been craving since the pandemic and not having the ability to connect with people socially. We're designed to be social human beings. Even if we're introvert, even if we're HSPs, genuine connection and community is so important for our health and our well-being. So, I'm just glad everyone is here sharing your thoughts and feelings. Thank you.
Thank you for having this room. This is really just really refreshing and helpful. You know, these rooms always are. I'm really grateful for the Highly Sensitive People Club. It's a godsend for me, you know, to be able to come in and talk to other people who share this superpower that we call HSP. And being able to, and like you said, I love that you put it in that way of it's not trauma bonding. It's finding that tribe of people who are also on that journey in different ways, but with this same um, theme that we are highly sensitive and that we have these ways about us that we understand. Other people might not get it, but we get it, you know. So if we're coming into a room and I see Brian and I'm like, "Hey Brian," you know, and and we know that both of us are highly sensitive, we could probably, you know, relate to each other in that room of what we're picking up, what we're, you know, receiving as far as information, how it's making us feel. Are we feeling overwhelmed? Is it, you know, too much? Do we feel kind of icky, you know, sitting here or what have you? And it's always super refreshing. So I always love it coming in here and having these conversations. It's always just a beautiful thing for me.
I could not agree more, Allison. It reminds me of like going to a really loud party and finding the only other HSP person in the whole room and like hiding in the corner and being like, hey, like that's it because you can't talk about anything else. This is kind of what the HSP club is for like. We go to like a super loud party, we're all just like in the corner, like, yep, this is loud. That's life. Yep.
Yes, I totally agree. It's so funny too because I mean, I just feel a deep love for my HSP community friends that, you know, when I think of Allison, I feel joy. Like, I love Allison. We connect on such a deep level. I'm so grateful for her energy. We have so many things in common, and it's just crazy that this was the avenue that we were able to connect. And the same with Maria and I, again, all these people that I've bonded through this club. And I feel so honored to have these kinds of friends because I don't, like Tanya mentioned, I don't have the physical friends in my community that get me on a deep level. And that was really missing in my life. It was missing before the pandemic and then really just got super whacked out during the pandemic where I wasn't even reaching out to people. And so that has definitely been another 2022 realization is really making the effort to connect with people in person. And I know we still have a lot of uncertainty in our world, but regardless of that, we still have to step out and be brave and resilient and decide that, you know, we're responsible. We still need to connect with our fellow humans and we need to build relationships that are meaningful to us. And the only way we're going to do that is in person or picking up the phone and talking to a friend or, you know, getting to be a part of a support group that is meaningful to you. That's another thing that I'm really passionate about is I want to make HSP support groups for advocates, for teachers, for parents, and really just help and support HSPs on that HSP journey, wherever you're at in that journey, and then be able to localize that. Just it's just like having a political campaign. It's something that I want to create a template for, show other people how it can be done, and now go do that in your communities so that we can help one another and continue to find each other. And it doesn't, you know, we don't have to be on social media for that to happen. So, yeah, I have lots of ideas. This is only the tip of the iceberg as far as building this community and connecting with other HSPs and creating content for people to learn about HSPs. I feel like I've just scratched the surface. And I know I'm going in the right direction, and I don't really have the perfect plan, and that's okay. And it's feeling my way through it. It's listening to my intuition. It's being in my feminine energy instead of that stupid patriarch where I have to feel like I have to prove myself. I have to go, go, go. I have to hustle, do or die, make everything count. I think we can sit back and be the royal advisors that we're meant to be and really sit in that energy of everything will come together as it will, and it's okay, and we can let go of all the hows and the struggle and the control, and really, as sensitive people, sit in that sensitivity and really find joy in that superpower, and then owning that will just put us out into the world in an energetic way of being that will create opportunities and connection and community in all sorts of different directions. So, whew, that's my soapbox yet again. But I appreciate everyone. Thank you so much. We are at the end of our room, and I just wanted to say thanks for everyone for coming up on stage and having such a robust conversation. This is why I love Clubhouse, is just getting in here and getting straight to the meat. So I just appreciate you, and I appreciate everyone in the audience that has been in the listening lounge and tuning in and being present to this conversation. I hope um, it landed on you in a way that was maybe new and exciting and different. And this will be available on replay, so you can always check it out in the HSP Club. And I am putting these replays on YouTube because that is more my jam. So I will be able to create different chapters and have these conversations show up on YouTube. So thanks again, everyone. We are going to have our next room in the HSP Club on Thursday. I'm continuing to celebrate the 1 year anniversary of being on Clubhouse. We had such a great time last Thursday, and it was just so wonderful to connect with people and to just really sit in this process of being on Clubhouse for a whole year consistently every Thursday, showing up and trying to unite highly sensitive people. So just celebrating that yet again this Thursday, and I will be adding more rooms to the club. So just make sure you're checking back, and if you're not already, follow the little green hut on top, and you'll be able to follow the club and see the different rooms that we have scheduled. So thanks everyone for being here. Thanks for sticking around and doing a night room. We're normally here during the day. So thanks again for being here tonight. This is Julie, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Good night.